Hey guys, today I want to discuss why I think the Trump riots happened. I think we can use the YouTube algorithm as a effective means for trying to explain the rise in radicalism on both the left and the right, and why this was just a ticking time bomb rather than this being the quote-unquote first shot heard around the world. So the video I have here is one made by Devin Nash a couple months ago. And in it's a very long video, but I will link it, and you can search the video from when he discusses how the YouTube algorithm works. And he goes into a bit of history of the YouTube algorithm for upvotes and downvotes. So it used to be a upvote was considered like a +1 to your video, and downvote was considered a -1. What YouTube learned as they perfected their algorithm is that downvotes actually got significant attention to videos. And they didn't think it was a effective means for how a video serves to keep viewers, and that's the goal of YouTube, to keep viewers. So they ended up making it so it was like a +1 and then a 0 to make it so as long as videos were getting upvotes, that meant that they still wanted to push a video. Then as they perfected it, they at one point even treated downvotes as worth more. So think of it as like a +1 for an upvote and +2 for a downvote. At that time, YouTube found that it created very negative like echo chambers, which is where they get essentially what the current algorithm is predicted to be, which is upvotes and downvotes being treated equal. I'm making an assumption here that this YouTube algorithm reflects something in natural life and natural psychology of humans, that we enjoy bad news just as much as good news, and this is dependent on where you fall on a political spectrum. So you may have heard of Jordan Peterson over the last couple of years. He's done a lot of work in psychology based on how agreeableness and disagreeableness map to conservatism, liberalism. Conservatives tend to be more disagreeable, and liberals tend to be more agreeable. I'm making an assumption that this follows a relatively normal distribution when doing what I'm considering a prediction for how the media plays to each of these parties. So we have two graphs here. The top one is my prediction if we had some type of unity-based media, and the bottom graph is what I think the current media kind of looks like. So if you have a normal population and a unity media, you see the normal distribution keeps itself kind of insane, and each of the two parties are relatively close to each other, making things that we're able to work with together. And the way policies would develop, this chart would move slightly left, slightly right, as people tend to lean left or right. By having a polarized medium, we see that these two normal distributions actually distribute themselves into two separate distributions. So you have your left-wing echo chamber and your right-wing echo chamber, and this is what we consider mainstream left and mainstream right. You have some people in the unity caucus, and those individuals don't feel represented whatsoever. So what isn't noticed in each of the graph is that there's a trailing distribution on each side, and this is what we normally consider to be radicals. These are the people that don't have an in with their particular group and will only watch the opposite group out of disagreeing with. So this makes us to a conclusion of what is radicalizing the right. What is the group over here being radicalized by? They're not in the right. They're being radicalized by mainstream left media, and the opposite is also true. Radical leftism will be radicalized by the mainstream right. So we have to ask, what do we think the mainstream right has been hearing from the mainstream left for the last, I'm going to predict here, 12 years, that they feel like they've been gaslit and not heard? First, we have under Obama, his White House didn't have a scandal that embarrassed us. However, these are the people that also see every wrong with Obama. This includes things like the military action that they see as very hypocritical. They know about how Obama started the cages on the border, because that's what they've been hearing. Obama praises the BLM movement for raising political issues. We have to remember, BLM raised during Obama, not during Trump. This is something Trump inherited. We have Joe Biden in his debate with Mitt Romney when Romney was running for president, that he told the audience that Republicans would put y'all back in chains. Next, starting day one, Donald Trump has been told that he's going to be impeached. And why do you think they feel that Donald Trump's going to be impeached? We see Hassan.
Georgia Republicans, and this goes to Republicans all around the country, but like, you're so stupid. Like,
they just hear that you're stupid, you're racist, you're bigoted. Then you get the protests over the last summer where they hear that protesting is okay. The protests are fiery, but mostly peaceful. You see books in defense of looting. You have Chris Cuomo.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
They've been told that there's ever-changing protocols in response to COVID. There's been changing of you shouldn't wear a mask to you should wear a mask, that lockdowns don't work to everyone needs to be locked down. And then going back to the protest over the summer, everyone's trying to compare the two, like the BLM to the Trump riots. They're not even on the same orders of magnitude. From Axios, we see that the BLM protest cost about $1 billion. The protests of the Capitol estimated at $270,000. That's over 3,000 times more done over the summer than this one protest that happened as a result of the election. So I think Cuomo actually had a very good point prior to the infamous peaceful comment that he had.
Now, too many see the protests as the problem. No, the problem is what forced your fellow citizens to take to the streets.
The irony is that this goes both ways. Cuomo has it exactly right. We don't understand why they took to the streets. They feel like they've been gaslit for the past 12 years, and now they have no representation within government. They've been told that the election was a fraud, and they don't feel like they got their day in court. We had majority of the court cases dismissed on procedural grounds rather than even looking at evidence. And I think if evidence was given in the setting of a court, there's a higher chance that they would be de-radicalized. I think if there was legitimate evidence given in Congress, that would give a chance to be de-radicalized. Tim Pool has a video that he gave after the riots, and I think this really gets into how we need to respond after these types of events.
These people are insurrectionists, terrorists, insurgents. And what do you think that's going to do? You know, I said this a long time ago. If somebody does something wrong and you don't like what they're doing or who they're associating with, you need to encourage them and give them the opportunity to do right. And then when they do something good, you thank them and offer them forgiveness. You know why? If you tell them there is no forgiveness and we will give you no quarter, then they're going to say, I will seek it with whoever will grant it. What happens then is those who are doing things you don't like will find like-minded people. If they treated Trump supporters and Trump with dignity and respect and opposed him, and then he lost but welcomed Trump supporters to come in and have the discussion, they would feel like their voice was being heard and they would have a chance to actually associate and communicate. But the same is true for the left.
Calling for impeachment or expulsion is just fanning the flames right now. And the question is that what we do? Well, my prediction earlier, these types of actions are only fanning the flame of radicalism. After the attacks on the Congress, every single congressman, when giving a talk that night when they were doing the Electoral College vote counting, came out against the violence. This was their apology. It's now your turn to choose whether to accept